In Palestine, the death toll from Israel's genocidal aggression against Gaza rose to 17,997, mostly women and children. Jordanian foreign minister denounces Israel's plan to expel Palestinians from Gaza through a genocidal war. And in Egypt, the general elections enter its second day. Over 67 million citizens are called to the polls to elect their next president. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Javier Milei took office in Argentina and warned citizens that it will be necessary to make a tough fiscal adjustment that will imply sacrifices but will eventually bear fruits. The president of Argentina addressed a message to his followers in which he made it clear that his plan of economic shock and tough fiscal adjustment is the bet for his first months in office. Milei launched a string of data on the country's fiscal deficit to justify the upcoming implementation of his plan of measures. He considered that the solution implies a fiscal adjustment in the national public sector of 5 points of GDP, which, as he promised, will fall almost entirely on the state and not on the private sector. The application of a program of forceful cuts will have a negative impact on salaries, poverty levels, and indigency. Among the guests invited to the ceremony were the King of Spain, the presidents of Armenia, Paraguay, Chile, Ukraine, the Israeli Foreign Minister, and the U.S. Secretary of Energy. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and the Cooperative Republic of Guyana will hold a high-level meeting with the purpose of preserving peace in Latin America and the Caribbean. The meeting will be held on Thursday, December 14th in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. President Nicolás Maduro received a proposal for dialogue from the head of state of Brazil, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, and the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, during a telephone conversation. In both calls, President Maduro ratified the historical position of Venezuela's unquestionable sovereign rights over Guyana Esequiba, as well as the legitimate and peaceful nature of this territorial claim, which has been maintained in strict compliance with the provisions of the 1966 Geneva Agreement. Regarding the dialogue to be held between the two nations, the national government expressed its satisfaction and accepts this call with pleasure and commitment. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves announced a face-to-face meeting between Guyanese President Irfan Ali and Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro on December 14th in the Caribbean islands.
Regarding an important initiative for face-to-face dialogue between the presidents of Guyana and Venezuela. That meeting, that dialogue, face-to-face, is scheduled to take place on Thursday, the 14th, here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This discussion would relate to matters consequential upon the border controversy which exists between Guyana and Venezuela.
During the press briefing, Gonsalves read a letter addressed to both President Maduro and President Ali, highlighting the importance of this face-to-face meeting to preserve the region as a zone of peace.
Given the recent events and circumstances attendant upon the border controversy, the leaderships of CELAC and CARICOM have assessed in the interest of all concerned, including our Caribbean and Latin American civilizations, the urgent need to de-escalate the conflict and institute an appropriate dialogue face-to-face between the presidents of Guyana and Venezuela. Both of you have concurred with this assessment in the quest of peaceful coexistence, the application and respect for international law, and the avoidance of the use of threats of force.
The Prime Minister acknowledged the difficulty of the task ahead.
We are all aware that the government of Guyana is seeking the resolution of the border controversy through the processes of the International Court of Justice, which is currently seized of the matter. We are cognizant, too, that the government of Venezuela has rejected the path of the ICJ as the modality for resolution. The Parliament of Guyana has unanimously instructed the President of Guyana not to discuss the border controversy with the government of Venezuela. The people of Venezuela have advised overwhelmingly in a consultative referendum on December the 3rd, 2023, their government not to accept the jurisdiction of the ICJ in the matter of the border controversy. Clearly, each of you has to summon the proverbial wisdom of Solomon, the patience of Job, and the foresight of all the ancient prophets to engender good neighborliness in peace, justice, security, and prosperity for all concerned.
The Prime Minister called to continue preserving the region as a zone of peace and warned against the dire consequences of an open conflict.
The fact of the matter is this: our region has been and is a zone of peace, and we like to keep it like this. If open conflict, force emerge, the implications are horrendous to contemplate. It would affect negatively everyone in the most distant villages in our Caribbean and also in Latin America. I don't think I can put it any higher than that.
9 people were killed at an MST camp in northern Brazil when workers installing an internet antenna accidentally touched a high-voltage power line, electrocuting 3 employees and 6 residents. The accident, which also left 8 people injured with burns that were taken to the hospital, occurred on Saturday and generated a short circuit, which also produced a large fire in the village camp of the landless workers movement, installed in the outskirts of the city of Parauapebas. A succession of modest hamlets went up in flames, according to officials of the Para Fire Department. According to the landless workers movement, employees of the internet company without the minimum safety standards were installing an internet antenna individually requested by the residents. After the electrical discharge, the fire department was called and the fire was brought under control. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. The death toll from the Israeli attacks against the Gazan population has risen to 17,997, the majority of whom, as has been the case since the beginning of the genocidal operation, are women and children. In a press conference, the spokesman of the Gaza Health Ministry, Ashraf Al-Qudra, updated on Monday the criminal statistics of the 66 days of the genocidal operation of the Israeli occupier. Among the victims of the last 12 hours include 2 women killed in Kamal Adwan Hospital and more than 40 civilians from shelling in Nusayrat, Deir al-Balat and Sheikh Radwan. The spokesman for the Gaza Health Ministry also confirmed that the number of wounded stands at 49,229. On Sunday, WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus warned that Gaza's health system was collapsing, with its capacity reduced by 2/3, even as needs have soared. The warning comes as Israel pressed ahead with its offensive, with heavy fighting raging overnight and into Sunday across Gaza.
The obvious to say that the impact of the conflict on health is catastrophic. More than 17,000 people are reported to have died in Gaza, including 7,000 children. And we don't know how many are buried under the rubble of their homes. More than 46,000 injuries have been reported. 1.9 million people have been displaced, almost the entire population of the Gaza Strip. and are looking for shelter anywhere they can find it. But nowhere and no one is safe in Gaza. Gaza's health system is on its knees and collapsing. Only 14 hospitals out of the original 36 are even partially functional. 2 north of the Wadi Gaza and 12 in the south. Only 1,400 beds are available out of an original 3,500, while about 2/3 of primary health care centers are non-functional. The 2 major hospitals in southern Gaza are operating at 3 times their bed capacity, running out of supplies and sheltering thousands of displaced people. Meanwhile, more than 180 women give birth in Gaza single every day.
Egypt and Mauritania will attempt to invoke UN General Assembly Resolution 377 to counter the U.S. veto of a ceasefire in Gaza. Resolution 337, also known as the Union for Peace Resolution, was adopted in November 1950 and allows the 183 member countries of the UN General Assembly to act when the Security Council fails to exercise its primary responsibility for upholding international peace and security. This resolution can also authorize the use of force. On the other hand, the Security Council will hold an emergency meeting on Tuesday to analyze the United States veto, which has been harshly criticized worldwide. Israeli civilian organizations and media claim that the Zionist government lies about the true number of casualties of its armed forces in Gaza. They point out that even the statements of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu contradict the High Command's reports. The ultra-right-winger Netanyahu affirmed that they have paid a very high price. Meanwhile, medical reports register over 5,000 injured soldiers, of which 2,000 have been left disabled for life. The head of the Rehabilitation Department of the Ministry of Defense assures to receive 60 wounded a day with serious injuries to hand and feet, most of which require amputation. The authorities revealed that the soldiers suffer from psychological diseases. Jordanian Foreign Minister Iman Safar on Monday denounced Israel's plan to expel the Palestinians from Gaza through a genocidal war and reaffirmed that his government will not allow this to happen. Safari's statements come as part of an intervention by the Jordanian delegation at the Doha Forum organized by the Qatari government. Jordan's foreign minister added that Israel has created a scale of hatred that will haunt entire generations in the region. Jordan shares borders with the West Bank and in 1948 absorbed the bulk of the expelled Palestinians after the creation of Israel, ratifying that his country cannot remain indifferent to the illegal process of expulsion of the occupier. He assured that there is a worldwide demand to put an end to Israel's genocidal war in Gaza. And also at the Doha Forum, Jordan's foreign minister Iman Safar said Israel's current incursion in Gaza has stirred an amount of hatred that will haunt the region and define generations to come, and added that it was incomprehensible to watch nations around the world allowing Israel to continue its offensive in Gaza.
We have not seen the world yet come to the place where it should come, which should be an unequivocal demand for ending this war, a war that is within the realm of the legal definition of genocide at this point. That has not happened. We're extremely disappointed that the UN resolution, which was simply calling for a humanitarian pause, that was vetoed. In the United States, we had a very blunt conversation with Secretary Blinken. All of us, the Arab and Muslim delegation, were very clear. Our priorities are set. Stop the aggression, allow sufficient humanitarian supplies into all parts of Gaza, ensure protection of civilians. Israel has created an amount of hatred that will haunt this region, that will define generations to come, and therefore it's hurting its own people as much as it is hurting everybody else in the region. This is a war that cannot be won. Israel has already suffered a strategic defeat, and that is what we need to remember. And I think it is incomprehensible that the world is allowing Israel to continue with the murder and killing of innocent people.
The Syrian air defenses intercepted a new attack carried out by the Israeli occupation. The military report indicates that at 11:05 p.m. local time on Sunday, the Israeli army carried out another aggression from the occupied Syrian Golan in the vicinity of Damascus. The attack reportedly continued for several hours. The initial military report does not register any death, injuries, or damage to property. Since the beginning of the Zionist operation against the Gaza Strip, the occupier has stepped up its attacks against the Arab nation. Syria accuses the Zionist regime of supporting terrorist groups and has denounced it before the United Nations. In Spain, activists in solidarity with Palestine mobilized to the Israeli consulate in Barcelona to demand a ceasefire in Gaza. In view of the continuity of the Israeli attacks on the Gaza Strip, the pro-Palestinian activism of Barcelona organized a new mobilization to ask for a ceasefire. Demonstrators expressed their rejection to the occupying force of the Zionist regime of Israel and denounced that what is happening in the Middle East country is a genocide. They also raised Palestinian flags and slogans expressing "Gaza, you are not alone" and "Boycott Israel." We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. For a short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. On Monday, Egypt's general election enters its second day. More than 67 million accredited citizens will choose their next president among 4 candidates. Re-election hopeful Abdel Fattah al-Sisi looks the favorite. Thousands of voters went to the polls on the first day of the process. One of them was the head of state himself. It is expected that the great affluence will continue this Monday. The National Electoral Authority assured that Sunday's day had exceeded all expectations and explained that more than 5 million voters entered the organization's website to know their electoral committees. The results of this first round, which ends tomorrow, will be announced on December 18th. On Sunday, Cuba presented its organic coffee during the United Nations COP28 climate conference held in the United Arab Emirates. Bio Cuba Café's organic coffee is produced in the eastern mountains of the Caribbean nation with the support of a Lavazza Foundation project. The product is processed by more than 170 coffee growers from 9 municipalities in the eastern region of the country, with an innovative concept that seeks to move away from the conventional production of coffee and bets on a clean product that enhances the preservation and social responsibility of the same. At the same time, it will promote good agricultural practices to improve crop yield and quality. This initiative received international organic certification from Control Union Certifications based in Lima, Peru in July 2022.
In fact, for Cuban producers, it's often cheaper, it's simpler, it's easier to access forestry as a natural means of soil and water protection and, of course, of resilience to climate change.
It seems very interesting that the coffee, through the institution that works here, is straining the agroforestry system crops that are eco-friendly. It should be promoted quite a lot, and public policies should really go to strengthen this type of work, not only agroforestry, but also forestry.
On Sunday, at least 17 people were injured as a result of a 2-train collision between the cities of Faenza and Forlì in northern Italy. Local authorities stressed that the accident occurred between a high-speed train and a regional train on the Bologna-Rimini line. The injured report minor injuries and contusions, none of them serious as the impact occurred at low speed. On the other hand, the company Treitalia informed that the rescue operations have been completed and the Minister of Infrastructure and Transport, Matteo Salvini, asked for precise reports on the event. For his part, the mayor of Faenza, Massimo Isola, confirmed that with the help of civil protection, they are assisting the passengers. Imports of liquefied natural gas in the Netherlands have resumed after a 3-month pause, according to Sputnik's analysis of the country's statistics. The Dutch Ministry of Climate and Energy said that the government was working to stop imports of liquefied natural gas from Russia, including stopping the signing of new gas contracts and even seeking the cancellation of existing contracts. Following the announcement, imports plummeted by nearly 30% in May and stopped altogether in June, July, and August. In 1 month, Moscow exported 211.5 million cubic meters of hydrocarbons to Amsterdam for 109 million euros. Also on a monthly basis, Dutch imports from Russia as a whole increased by 5.3% to $410.5 million in 1 month. On Saturday, Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko arrived in Equatorial Guinea as part of an African tour to bolster ties in the continent. Lukashenko and Equatorial Guinea's President Teodoro Obiang Nguema Massogo signed several agreements designed to launch the first phase of a regional center to promote Belarusian products in Central and West African markets. Lukashenko said that for months, a joint commission presided by the country's foreign ministers has been studying projects in industry, education, health, and agriculture, which are expected to be completed by 2026. We have come to the end of this news brief, but before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscast and contribute to provide an alternative news source of the latest world events. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.